I remember the heat first. Miami doesn't welcome you, it weighs on you. Thick air, heavy with salt and money, pressing against your lungs like a quiet warning. Even before I stepped out of the car, I could feel it crawling under my skin, sticking to my shirt, wrapping itself around my throat. It felt like walking into something I wasn't meant to breathe. But I ignored it. I've ignored worse. I adjusted my jacket, slow, deliberate, like a man preparing for something important. Because it was important. My daughter's wedding. The kind of day people remember for the rest of their lives. The kind of day a father is supposed to stand tall, maybe even proud. I wasn't proud, but I showed up. That should have counted for something. The venue stretched out before me like a scene from someone else's life. White marble, glass walls reflecting the ocean. Rows of chairs perfectly aligned beneath a canopy of flowers that probably cost more than most people earn in a year. Everything about it whispered the same message. Money, status, image. Not love. Never love. I stepped forward anyway, the gravel crunching quietly beneath my shoes. In my hand, I held the envelope. Simple, unmarked, heavy enough to bend slightly at the edges where my fingers pressed into it. For $100,000. Not a gift. A lifetime. Every late night. Every extra shift. Every time I told myself not now so she could have everything later. It was all there, reduced to numbers on paper and ink that would clear within seconds. I thought it meant something. I thought I meant something. As I walked toward the entrance, I noticed the glances. Subtle at first, then less subtle. People dressed in tailored suits, women wrapped in silk and diamonds. All of them turning just enough to see me without being obvious. They didn't recognize me. That was fine. I wasn't there for them. I was there for her. But then I realized something else. No one was coming to greet me. No coordinator. No assistant. No quiet confirmation that I belonged. Just space. Empty space where I stood alone. That's when I saw her. She stood under the arch like she had been placed there on purpose. Perfect posture, perfect dress, perfect stillness. Everything about her was curated, controlled, polished down to the smallest detail. My daughter. And yet not mine. Not in that moment. I slowed down without meaning to. Something inside me tightening. Something old and instinctive telling me this wasn't right. "Hey," I said, forcing a small smile that felt heavier than the envelope in my hand. "You look." I couldn't finish it, because she didn't look at me like a daughter looks at her father. She looked at me like a problem. "You came," she said. No warmth. No relief. Just observation. "I said I would," I answered. My voice sounded distant, like it belonged to someone else. I lifted the envelope slightly. "I brought something for. You shouldn't have." She cut through the sentence like it didn't matter. Like I didn't matter. For a second, I just stared at her, waiting for her expression to change. Waiting for something human to surface. Nothing did. "I wanted to support you," I said carefully. "It's your day." Her eyes flicked to the envelope, then back to my face. Calculating, measuring. Then she stepped closer, lowering her voice. "You don't fit the image." Simple, clean, final. The words didn't hit all at once. They spread slowly, like something cold seeping into bone. "I don't understand," I said, though I already did. She exhaled, annoyed, like I was forcing her to explain something obvious. "This isn't just a wedding. It's important. His family, their connections. Everything has to look right. People notice things. They ask questions." She paused, her gaze hardening. "And you, stand out. Stand out." That was one way to say it. I stood there in silence, feeling something shift inside me. Not breaking. Not yet. Just moving. Settling into place. "I raised you," I said quietly. She didn't react. "That's not the point." 3 words. 16 years gone. I looked at her, really looked this time. Not as the little girl who used to fall asleep on the couch waiting for me to come home. Not as the teenager who needed money, rides, patience, forgiveness. But as she was now. Someone who had already decided what I was worth. Behind her, I noticed movement. Security. subtle but ready, positioned just close enough to step in if things became inconvenient. If I became inconvenient, I can sit in the back, I said. No one has to. No. Immediate. Sharp. I don't want a scene, she added softer now. Please don't make this harder than it already is. Harder. For her. Not for the man she was erasing in real time. I looked down at the envelope again. My thumb traced the edge where it had begun to crease. For $100,000. For someone who didn't fit. I nodded once. Not in agreement. In acceptance. All right, I said. Her shoulders dropped slightly. Relief. Genuine relief. Thank you, she whispered. That word. Thank you. Not for raising her. Not for sacrificing everything. For leaving quietly. I turned. No anger. No raised voice. No last attempt to make her understand. Just silence. Each step away from that entrance felt strange. Not heavy. Not light. Just detached. Like I was walking out of something that had already ended long before I arrived. I got into the car and closed the door. The outside world disappeared instantly, replaced by stillness so complete it felt artificial. I sat there, hands on the wheel, envelope in my lap. For a long time I didn't move. Then I laughed. Not loud, not even bitter, just once. Because suddenly it all made sense. All the distance, all the coldness, all the moments I ignored because I didn't want to see them clearly. This wasn't new. I was just finally looking at it without lying to myself. An hour later, I was parked 3 blocks away. The envelope sat beside me, unopened. My phone was in my hand, and I started making calls. Slowly, carefully, deliberately. The venue account, canceled. The catering transfer, reversed. The event planner, flagged for payment dispute. Every vendor tied to my name, my accounts, my money, cut off. Then her cards. Frozen. Blocked. Erased. I didn't rush. I didn't hesitate. I just removed myself. Piece by piece. By the time I was done, the wedding was still happening. Music. Laughter. Champagne. But underneath it, nothing was paid for. I leaned back in the seat and closed my eyes for a moment. Not tired. Not emotional. Just clear. Because she thought I didn't fit the image. But she forgot something simple. I built it. Every polished surface. Every perfect detail. Every illusion of stability. Without me, collapses. I opened my eyes and looked out at the city. Bright. Indifferent. Alive. And for the first time in years, I wasn't thinking about fixing anything. I wasn't thinking about calling her. Or warning her. Or saving her from what was coming. I was thinking about something else. Watching. Because if she could erase me that easily, then I needed to see just how far she was willing to go. And more importantly, who she really was when everything I gave her disappeared. I started the engine, drove away, and left her perfect day behind. Unpaid, unstable, and already beginning to crack. The first call came at 7:18 p.m. I didn't answer. Her name lit up my phone, bright against the darkness of the car, and I watched it ring until it died. Then it started again. Then again. Each time I let it burn itself out. A father answers. A fool rushes back. That night I was done being both. By 9, the messages started coming in faster than I could read them. Dad, what did you do? The venue says the final payment didn't clear. The caterer is threatening to stop service. This is embarrassing. That word stayed with me. Not cruel. Not heartbreaking. Embarrassing. Even in panic, she was still thinking about the image. I sat in my hotel room with the curtains open. Miami glowing below me like a city built on polished lies. My jacket was hanging over a chair. The envelope with the check sat untouched on the desk. For $100,000. Still mine. For once. Then another message came. Please don't ruin my life because your feelings got hurt. I stared at that one for a long time. My feelings. As if 16 years of sacrifice were a mood. As if being thrown out of my daughter's wedding like an unwanted guest was some small insult I should have swallowed with a smile. I turned the phone face down. Silence returned. But not peace. Peace doesn't come when betrayal reveals itself. What comes first is memory. Ugly memory. Sharp memory. Every little thing you ignored suddenly steps into the light. The new handbags. The sudden trips. The luxury apartment she claimed her fiancé was helping pay for. The strange withdrawals from accounts I rarely checked because I trusted her. Trust. God, what a dangerous word. The next morning I called my accountant. His name was Louis and he had worked with me for 15 years. Quiet man. Careful. The kind who didn't panic unless numbers told him to. That morning his voice changed. You need to come in, he said. No greeting. No small talk. Just that. I went. His office smelled like coffee and paper. The same as always, but nothing felt familiar when I sat across from him and watched him slide a folder toward me. Inside were statements, transfers, credit charges, wire records. At first, I didn't understand what I was looking at. Then the pattern sharpened. My daughter had been moving money for months. Not asking, not borrowing, moving. Small enough at first to avoid attention, then larger, then careless. Hotel deposits, designer invoices, vendor retainers, payments to companies I had never heard of. And one name kept appearing again and again. Her fiancé, Evan Vale, the successful businessman, the charming man with the white smile and expensive watch, the man everyone praised. Louis tapped one line with his pen. This account is connected to him. I looked down. How much? He hesitated. That hesitation told me more than the number. Just over 800,000 across several months. The room went quiet. Not because there was no sound. Because something inside me stopped listening. 800,000. My money. My labor. My years. I leaned back slowly. She said he was wealthy, I muttered. Louis gave me a look I will never forget. Pity mixed with professional restraint. He isn't. 2 words. Another illusion dead. He opened a second folder. Lawsuits. Defaults. Failed companies. Business loans. Tax liens. Civil claims. Creditors circling him like vultures around meat. Evan Vale wasn't a businessman. He was a debt with a haircut. And my daughter had tied herself to him with my bank account as the rope. I should have felt rage. Instead, I felt cold. Rage is loud. Cold is useful. Does she know? I asked. Louis didn't answer right away. Then he said, some of these transfers required her authorization. There it was. The part one didn't want to hear. Not manipulation alone. Participation. My daughter hadn't been fooled from the beginning. She had been spending, hiding, smiling, lying. And when the bill came due, she wanted me outside the gates so I wouldn't see what my money had built. I left Louis's office with copies of everything. The city looked different after that. Brighter, uglier. Every glass tower reflected a version of the world where people smiled while reaching into your pockets. My phone kept ringing. Her. Then unknown numbers. Then Evan. I answered him. Not because I wanted to hear his voice. Because I wanted to hear him lie. Sir, he said, smooth as oil. I think emotions ran high yesterday. We can fix this privately. Privately. That's what parasites prefer. I'm listening, I said. He paused, probably expecting anger. Men like him understand anger. They can bend it, redirect it, call it instability. Calm unsettles them. Your daughter is devastated, he said. You humiliated her. I almost smiled. I wasn't allowed inside. That was a misunderstanding. No, I said. It was very clear. His tone tightened. Just slightly. Look, the vendors are demanding payment. This can become a legal mess very fast. For everyone, including you. There it was. The threat wearing a suit. For me, I asked. You committed to funding the event. I committed to attending my daughter's wedding. Silence. Then softer. Colder. You don't want people questioning your state of mind. My hand tightened around the phone. Not much. Enough. My state of mind? Canceling payments suddenly. Blocking cards. Abandoning your daughter on her wedding day. People might see that as erratic. Erratic. The word landed too precisely, too prepared, and suddenly pieces moved in my head. The doctor appointments my daughter insisted on. The vitamins she started bringing me. The way Evan always watched when I drank tea at their apartment. The foggy mornings. The missing hours. The strange fatigue I blamed on age. The misplaced documents I didn't remember moving. The conversation where she casually asked about power of attorney. My stomach turned. Not with fear. With recognition. They weren't just stealing from me. They were building a story. A weak-old man. Confused. Unstable. Unable to manage his own money. A man whose assets needed protection. From himself. I ended the call without another word. Then I stood there in the middle of the sidewalk, Miami moving around me, and understood the shape of the trap. My daughter had not only spent my money, she had helped prepare my removal. My money, my house, my name, all of it. I went back to the hotel and did not sleep that night. I opened every account, every statement, every login. I changed passwords until my fingers ached. I called banks, attorneys, my physician. I requested records. I demanded copies. I asked questions in a voice so calm it frightened even me. By dawn, I had enough to know one thing. This was deeper than a wedding. The wedding had only exposed the rot. At 6:42 a.m., my daughter finally left a voicemail. Her voice was shaking. Not from guilt. From fear. Dad, please call me. Evan says you're acting irrational. People are worried. I'm worried. Maybe we should all sit down with Dr. Henson again and talk about what's been happening with your memory. I played it twice. Then a third time. Dr. Henson. A doctor I had met only because she insisted I was becoming forgetful. A doctor who had asked strange questions while Evan sat in the corner pretending to scroll his phone. A doctor who had recommended mild support with finances. Mild support. That was what they called the first chain before they locked it around your neck. I saved the voicemail. Then I saved every message. Every email. Every record. Because now I understood. They had mistaken silence for weakness. They had mistaken age for surrender. They had mistaken my love for blindness. But I had been watching longer than they knew. I remembered the way Evan's smile vanished whenever money was delayed. I remembered my daughter's irritation when I asked simple questions. I remembered the night she brought me a glass of wine and watched too closely as I drank it. I remembered waking the next morning with my head full of cotton and my signature sitting on a document I did not remember signing. At the time, I told myself I was tired. Grieving men make excuses. Lonely fathers make worse ones. But that morning, standing in that hotel room with the ocean beyond the glass, I stopped making excuses. I called my attorney. Something is wrong, I told him. He listened without interrupting. When I finished, he said one sentence. Do not confront them. I looked at the untouched envelope on the desk. The check still inside. The gift that had become evidence of my own stupidity. I won't, I said, and I meant it. Confrontation was for men who still wanted answers. I was past answers. I wanted proof. So I did what they expected least. I called my daughter back. When she answered, she sounded breathless. Dad, I let my voice tremble. Just enough. I'm tired, I said. A pause. Then softness. Too quick. Too sweet. I know. We're just worried about you. There she was. Not my daughter. The actress. I think maybe I overreacted, I said. Silence. Then Evan's voice in the background. Muffled. Coaching. She came back warmer. It's okay. We can fix this. Come home. We'll help you. Help me. I closed my eyes. Maybe I need that, I whispered. And on the other end of the line, I could feel them smiling. They thought the old man was crawling back. They thought shame had broken me. They thought I would reopen the accounts, sign the papers, apologize for ruining their perfect lie. But they didn't understand what had changed. Before the wedding, I was a father trying to be loved. After the wedding, I became a witness. And witnesses do not beg. They record. They remember. They wait. So I agreed to meet them. Not to forgive. Not to reconcile. To watch. because they had stolen my money behind my back. They had dressed fraud in silk and called it a wedding. They had started whispering that I was losing my mind. And maybe that was their greatest mistake. Because a man who knows he is being hunted does not walk blindly into the woods. He marks every tree. He counts every footprint. He lets the wolves come close. And then he shows the world their teeth. I didn't rush back. That was the first rule I set for myself. Men who panic reveal themselves. Men who hurry make mistakes. And I had made enough of those already, years of them, dressed up as love, disguised as patience, buried under the word family. So I waited. 2 days. Just enough time for the pressure to build on their side. Vendors calling. Accounts frozen. Questions multiplying like cracks in glass. I wanted them uncomfortable. Not desperate yet. Desperation makes people reckless. I needed them careful. Careful people slip slower. And slower leaves evidence. When I finally arrived at the house, nothing looked different. That was the second thing I noticed. Same driveway, same trimmed hedges, same quiet, controlled exterior that suggested stability, respectability, order, a lie preserved perfectly. I stepped out of the car and stood there for a moment, letting the silence settle around me. No music, no laughter, no movement behind the windows. Waiting. They were waiting. I walked to the door and didn't knock. I used my key. Inside, the air smelled the same, but something underneath had changed. Tension. A stillness that didn't belong to a home. Felt staged. Like a room prepared for observation. She appeared first. My daughter. Her face softened the moment she saw me. But it wasn't the softness I remembered. It was practiced. Controlled. The kind of expression you wear when you already know what role you're playing. "Dad," she said, stepping forward quickly. "You came." I nodded, letting my shoulders sag just slightly. "I told you I would." She hugged me. That was new. Not warm. Not tight. Measured. I didn't return it. Behind her, Evan stood in the doorway to the living room, watching. Always watching. His smile came a second too late, like it needed permission to exist. "Good to see you," he said. His tone was careful, respectful, fake. I walked past him without responding. Not rude, just distant. I needed them to feel that distance. We sat in the living room. Same couch, same table, same arrangement where I had once felt like I belonged. Now it felt like a set, prepared, controlled. Evan took the chair across from me. My daughter sat beside me, closer than usual. Too close. Her hand rested lightly on my arm. Comfort, or containment. "We were worried," she said softly. "You've been under a lot of stress." I nodded slowly. "Yes, I think I have." That was the third rule. Give them what they expect. Not everything. Just enough. Evan leaned forward, folding his hands. Calm. Professional, like a man discussing business. "We understand emotions ran high at the wedding," he said. "It's a stressful environment, a lot of pressure, but canceling payments like that, it caused serious complications." Complications, not betrayal, not deception, just inconvenience. "I didn't mean to cause problems," I said quietly. My daughter squeezed my arm. "There you go," she murmured. "It's okay. We can fix this." Fix. Such a simple word for such a rotten structure. Evan smiled slightly, encouraged now. "Exactly. We just need to restore stability. Reopen the accounts, settle the vendors, reassure everyone that everything is under control." Under control. I looked at him for the first time directly. His eyes didn't move. Too steady. Men who lie often overcorrect. "And my accounts?" I asked. A small pause, barely noticeable. "We'll help manage them," he said smoothly. "Just temporarily, until things stabilize." There it was. Not a request. A transition. From access to control. My daughter leaned closer. "It's just to take the pressure off you," she said. "You've been forgetting things, making sudden decisions. We don't want anyone taking advantage of you." Anyone. I almost smiled. "Of course," I said, and that was when I saw it. Relief. Real this time. Not practiced. Not staged. They believed me. That was their fourth mistake. Evan stood. "I'll grab the documents," he said. Documents. Already prepared. Of course they were. While he left the room, my daughter stayed close. Her voice dropped even lower. "You scared me," she whispered. "The way you acted. It wasn't like you. Not like me." "No," I agreed. "It wasn't." Because the man she knew was gone. Replaced by someone quieter. Colder. Watching. Evan returned with a folder. Thick. Organized. Too organized. He placed it on the table and opened it with deliberate care, sliding papers toward me one by one. Power of attorney. Financial oversight agreements. Medical recommendations. All clean. All legal on the surface. All poison underneath. "This just gives us the ability to help," he said. "Nothing changes unless necessary. Nothing changes. Except everything." I looked down at the papers. My name printed clearly. Spaces for signatures waiting patiently. Traps don't rush. They wait for you to step forward willingly. My hand moved slightly toward the pen, and then stopped. Not dramatically. Not suspiciously. Just enough. "I feel a little tired," I said, leaning back. My daughter's expression tightened for a split second. Evan recovered faster. "Of course," he said smoothly. "We don't have to do everything today. Smart. Flexible. Predators adjust. I just need some rest," I added. She nodded quickly. "Yes, of course. You can stay here tonight." "Stay." "Inside the trap." I hesitated. Not too long. Then nodded. "All right." That night, I didn't eat anything they gave me. That was the fifth rule. Trust nothing you didn't prepare yourself. I watched instead. The way Evan hovered just enough. The way my daughter checked my glass before handing it to me. The way they exchanged glances when they thought I wasn't looking. I pretended to drink. I pretended to be slower, quieter, confused at the edges. And they adjusted around me. More careful. More deliberate. More revealing. At 11:47 p.m. I heard them. Whispers from the kitchen. I didn't move. Didn't get up. Just listened. "He's folding," Evan said quietly. "Are you sure?" she asked. A pause. "Yes. We just need the signature." "And the accounts?" "Once we have control, we move everything. Clean. Quiet. Before he changes his mind again." My chest tightened. Not from emotion. From confirmation. "And the doctor?" she asked. He already noted cognitive decline. "It's enough if we need to escalate." Escalate. Legal. Permanent. Erase him. Take everything. Call it care. I closed my eyes. 16 years. Reduced to a strategy. To a plan. To a weakness they intended to exploit. But they didn't know what I had already done. Every account secured. Every conversation recorded. Every document copied. Every suspicion now backed by proof. They thought they were tightening the net. They didn't realize they were stepping into one. I stayed still until their voices faded. Then I opened my eyes in the dark. Silent. Awake. Watching. Because now there was no doubt left. They weren't just taking my money. They were preparing to take my life as it existed. My name. My home. My control. And call it protection. I turned my head slightly, staring into the darkness of the room that no longer felt like mine. And for the first time since the wedding, I felt something close to satisfaction. Because they had finally shown me everything. No masks. No hesitation. Just truth. And truth is what destroys people like them. Not anger. Not confrontation. Evidence. And I had started collecting it. Piece by piece. Word by word. Lie by lie. They thought I was weakening. They thought I was slipping. They thought I was becoming exactly what they needed. But they forgot one thing. I was still watching. Morning came quietly. Too quietly. No clatter in the kitchen. No movement in the hallway. No careless noise that belongs to people who feel safe in their own home. They were careful now. That told me everything. I stayed in bed longer than necessary, staring at the ceiling, letting the silence stretch. Not because I was tired, because I wanted them to wonder, to question, to adjust. Uncertainty makes people reveal themselves. At 8:12 a.m., there was a soft knock. My daughter. Dad? She called gently. Are you awake? I let a pause hang in the air before answering. Yes. Just slow this morning. The door opened carefully, like I might shatter if she moved too fast. She stepped in with a smile that didn't reach her eyes. I made you tea, she said, holding the cup out. Tea, of course. I pushed myself up slowly, letting my movements drag just enough to match the version of me they wanted to see. Thank you, I murmured. I took the cup, held it, didn't drink. Her eyes lingered on me, watching, waiting. I lifted it halfway, then stopped, blinking as if distracted. Did I already have coffee? I asked, frowning slightly. A flicker of something passed through her expression. Not concern. Calculation. No, she said softly. That's your first drink. I nodded, setting the cup down beside the bed. I'll have it in a minute. That was enough. She didn't push. Not yet. Evan's downstairs, she added. We thought maybe we could go over things today. Just slowly. No pressure. No pressure. Just signatures. Just control. Just everything. I'll come down, I said. She smiled again, tighter this time. Then she left. I waited, counted to 60. Then I stood, took the cup, and poured it slowly into the sink in the bathroom. Every drop, clear. No hesitation. No mistake. I rinsed the cup, set it back exactly how it was. Then I went downstairs. They were already sitting at the table. Of course they were. Prepared. Evan looked up first, his expression shifting instantly into concern. How are you feeling? He asked. I lowered myself into the chair across from him, slower than necessary. A little foggy, I said. My daughter reached for my hand again. We'll help you through it, she said softly. Help. Always that word. I nodded. I appreciate that. Evan slid the folder across the table. Closer this time. More direct. We don't have to do everything, he said. Just a few signatures today. Enough to stabilize things. Stabilize. I looked down at the papers. Same documents. Same trap. But now, I noticed more. Dates. Witness lines. Pre-filled sections that assumed compliance. They weren't preparing for if. They were preparing for when. My hand hovered over the pen again. Closer this time. I let it tremble slightly. Not exaggerated. Just enough. My daughter leaned in. It's okay, she whispered. Take your time. Her voice was softer now. Kinder. More convincing. It almost sounded real. Almost. I picked up the pen. Held it. Let the silence stretch. Evan didn't move. Didn't blink. Hungry men learn patience. Then I lowered the pen and stopped just above the paper. I don't remember agreeing to this, I said quietly. The shift was immediate. Small, but sharp. Evan leaned forward just slightly. We discussed it before, he said calmly. You've been having some memory issues. That's why this is important. Important. Necessary. Unavoidable. My daughter squeezed my arm again. You asked for help, she added. I looked at her. Really looked. And for a moment I saw it. Not love. Not guilt. Fear. Not of losing me. Of losing control. I did. I asked. Her eyes flickered. Yes, she said quickly. Too quickly. There it was. A crack. I leaned back slowly, setting the pen down. Maybe we should wait, I murmured. Silence. Heavy. Uncomfortable. Evan recovered first. Of course, he said smoothly. There's no rush. But there was. And we all knew it. Because every minute that passed without my signature was a minute their plan remained incomplete. Unsecured. Fragile. I stood up. I think I need some air. My daughter hesitated. Then nodded. Okay. Just don't go far. Don't go far. I almost smiled. I stepped outside. The air felt different. Not lighter. Sharper. Clearer. Because inside that house, Everything was filtered through lies. Out here, there was only truth. I walked slowly toward the edge of the driveway, then stopped and pulled out my phone. Not to call, to check. Every recording from the night before saved. Backed up. Duplicated. Every account still locked. Every document copied. Everything they thought was slipping through my fingers, still firmly in my hands. Behind me, I heard the door open. "Evan, I figured you might need company," he said, walking up beside me. I didn't look at him. We stood there in silence for a moment. Then he spoke again. "You know, this doesn't have to be difficult." I turned slightly. "No," he shook his head. "You've done well for yourself. Built something impressive. It would be a shame to see it mishandled." Mishandled. A softer word than stolen. "I agree," I said. He studied me, trying to read, trying to measure how much I understood. "You trust your daughter, don't you?" he asked. I held his gaze. For the first time, fully. "No," I said. "Just that. Nothing more." For a second, just 1 second, his mask slipped. Then it was back. Smooth. Controlled. "That's unfortunate," he said quietly. I nodded. "Yes, for you." I turned and walked back toward the house, leaving him standing there. Because now I knew something else. He wasn't just confident. He was getting impatient. And impatient people make mistakes. That afternoon, I agreed to sign. Not everything. Just one document. A smaller one. Harmless on the surface. Enough to keep them invested. Enough to make them believe progress was happening. Their relief was immediate. Too immediate. They thought they were winning. They thought the slow man was finally giving in. That night they were less careful. Voices louder. Movements less controlled. Confidence returning. And that's when they made the mistake I needed. At 10:26 p.m. I saw Evan access my study. My locked study. He didn't know I was watching. Didn't know I had changed the camera system months ago. Didn't know every movement was being recorded. He opened drawers. Checked documents. Photographed files. Searching. Always searching. For control. For leverage. For everything that wasn't his. I watched it all from my phone in silence. No interruption. No reaction. Just proof. Because that's what this had become. Not a family. Not a conflict. A case. And I was building it piece by piece. Carefully. Patiently. Completely. They thought they were guiding a weak man toward surrender. They didn't realize they were walking themselves into exposure. Into consequences. Into something they couldn't charm or manipulate their way out of. I put the phone down and sat in the dark. Still. Calm. Certain. Because now, I had enough. Not to confront. Not yet. But enough to destroy everything they had built on my back. And when the time came, there would be no arguments. No misunderstandings. No escape. Just truth. Laid out in the open. For everyone to see. I leaned back, closing my eyes for a moment, and one thought settled clearly in my mind. They thought I was fading. They thought I was losing control. They thought I was becoming weak. But they forgot something simple. I had already seen the end of this, and it didn't belong to them.